So we're gonna go ahead and look into our problems with Wuthering Waves and what we think. After a month of Wuthering Waves, I'd like to get into how I feel about it, some of my feedback. So hello YouTube, how are you doing? Come join us on Twitch sometime. If you have a little second to hang out, you get infinite Riz, increased IQ, bigger PP, and you will grow an inch taller. But let's go ahead and get into it. The Wuthering Waves version experience survey. Subscribe. As of now, how satisfied are you with Wuthering Waves? I'm going to say, for me, as of now, I'm very satisfied with the game. Is the game perfect? No, but I am very satisfied with the game overall. Based on your experience with the current version, how satisfied are you with the following aspects? Story, I am going to say very dissatisfied because I'm not seeing anything specifically relating to the voice acting. One of the biggest things that really hit the story for me and really made it worse was like the voice acting on top of the story not being that good, especially at the beginning. So I'm gonna put very dissatisfied for story, even though I did like especially like the last two acts, like 5 and 6 were really good, 4 got better, but I'm gonna say very dissatisfied because I'm gonna go, the story was kind of poopy. Overall, not that great, and I'd like them to do better, so I'm gonna go to very. Combat, I am very satisfied with. I think it is one of the strongest, if not the strongest part of this game. I actually like it even more than I thought it would. I really, really like it. World exploration, I'm also gonna go ahead and put very satisfied. This was a part of the game that took me by surprise because in Genshin Impact, the exploration for me was more so a point of pain and suffering. I think the stamina system really killed it for me and the climbing and everything. So it's taken me by surprise how much I genuinely do just like the world exploration, and maybe that makes me a little bit of like a mint picker in Wuthering Waves, an echo eater or something. I don't know what you would say, but like I actually genuinely do just like running around the world, finding chests, killing the lizards, and it's actually one of the shining parts of this game, and I can't wait for them to add more stuff, new puzzles, new areas in the next patch. I'm really excited for. So world exploration, very satisfied. And for progression, I'm going to put somewhat dissatisfied. I don't know that I want to get super far into this concept like right now, because I think I do want to make a video about some more specific or in-depth gripes that I have. But I think the progression system is tuned a little bit bizarrely, where right now it feels like we should be doing like end game activities. Like there's nothing buffering between like the beginning of the game and kind of the end game activities once you get to like level like 40-ish. But like you can't actually complete all of those end game activities because of the Echo XP stuff. And so I think that there is some tuning that needs to be done, and this might just be because it's the first patch, and so a lot of that stuff hasn't been filled in. And so for later players, I think this is not going to be an issue. I think in 6 months, the issues with progression are going to feel like probably fine because there's going to be so much more to do. There's going to be so much added to the game. But right now for me, the progression feels a little odd because it's like you're progressing, and then you like kind of randomly hit end game, but you can't level your characters up anymore for quite a while. Getting to level 50 is going to take forever, and you can't really level up all your echoes. You can't really finish all the content, especially in like the Spiral Abyss thing, the Tower of Adversity thing, because you can't get enough damage out. And so it feels like a little bit bad because you hit this like stop point. I think that this is probably a 1.0 problem, but it is how it feels to me. Character art, I am going to say very satisfied. I think this is a personal preference thing very heavily. I really like the character designs in the game. I understand that they're not as flashy and insane. These are also the starting character lineups, which is usually in every game. I mean, even in Honkai Star Rail, Genshin Impact, like all of the starting lineups for gacha games tend to be a little bit more basic, a little bit more plain, and they continuously make the characters more and more interesting. But even if we go so far as to just think about our first premium characters, Yinlin, banger, Chongli, banger, Jinshi, banger, and also, honestly, Jian is a fucking banger too. So like all of our premium 5 stars look fantastic. Do the 4 stars look a little bit more meh? Some of them, yeah, they're 4 stars. Our villains all look really cool. Scar, Camellia, this girl, I don't know her name. I really like the character art. I know that that's like a personal preference thing. You might like other designs better. I do like the direction for character design in the game so far. UI design, I'm neutral on it. That's kind of it. Like, I don't have a problem with it. I don't have like a super positive, like I feel really good about it. The UI is not intrusive and it does everything I needed to do, and it's not hard to find anything that I need. Scene art. I feel like I don't understand what they mean by scene art. Like, what is scene art? Does that mean like the scenery, like the environmental art? I'm gonna assume that it's like the world aesthetic, yeah, like the environment. I'm gonna go ahead and say somewhat satisfied, because I think that there are a lot of areas that are like really spectacular. There's still a lot of grass, depending on where you go. The further you get from a teleport, the more it is just kind of grass. I think that part of this is like an open world problem, where I don't know how you would fill every single part of an open world with like tons of stuff. But there are like a lot of like kind of filler areas that are pretty, it's just grass and trees. But there are also really, really spectacular areas, really cool parts of areas, you know, really interesting scenery. So I'd say somewhat satisfied. I think the game gets too much hate for how, like, people saying it's ugly. It's not. There's a lot of like empty space, or like maybe we just make this space smaller. But yeah, I think we do need some more puzzles. I think I would agree that the puzzle density is a little low, but I think overall it's like the scene for the art, it's nice, but it could be more. For the music and sound effects, I'm gonna put somewhat dissatisfied. And I'm gonna tell you why. It's because PGR has insane music. It pisses me off because I think that the Wuthering Waves music is pretty meh. I don't find it like super obtrusive. I personally, it's not the biggest deal to me, but I do want to give the feedback that I am dissatisfied, because if they make it better, I will be happier. But where it is now, it doesn't affect my experience all that much. But if they make it better, the sound effects, I don't have any thoughts on, but the music itself we need more. We need more. I don't understand how they have such insane music in their trailers too, but then it's just like you're walking around the world and you're battling the boss and it's kind of the same 3 songs over and over. Again, I don't find it to be the most intrusive thing. It doesn't affect my gameplay that much. It doesn't affect my enjoyment of the game that much. I would still like it to be better. Performance optimization, I'm gonna say somewhat satisfied, mostly because yesterday all of a sudden I started having some like really weird ping variation issues. There was like a variance of like 200 ping that it was spiking really, really rapidly. I think that was like a server issue, but I'm gonna say somewhat satisfied because it annoyed me. Co-op experience, I've not done a ton of co-op, but I'm very satisfied, mostly because it's a lot of it's really convenient. There's a lot of QOL with co-op. I like that if I hit a rock anywhere on the map, the other person in my world is also going to get that rock. And I think that is a really great benefit to co-op if you're trying to farm stuff. Love it. And as for the beginner experience, I think I'm going to say somewhat satisfied. And for me, this is sort of related to the issue of progression to me. I think the beginner honeymoon period of Wuthering Waves right now is not necessarily long enough, but I also think that this is an issue of it being in 1.0. It is both something that doesn't feel very good right now with my experience of the current version, because that's the question being asked, but I think that is more so an issue with it being a newer, less developed game. Over time, I think this is going to be an issue that is resolved, but the beginner experience has a lot to do with like the progression, where like you kind of hit this wall where there's no more progression to do. But in terms of like rewards and the fun factor of getting into the world, I like it a lot. But there's a lot of like right now, I think the issues are magnified by the fact there's not a lot of padding of like more patches. What device you primarily use to play Wuthering Waves? I only played on a PC. I have played on phone, but I'm not gonna count that because my experience doesn't matter because I've done it like twice. How often do you play Wuthering Waves with a controller? I never play it with a controller. I did the first day just to see how it worked, but I'm good. I prefer with mouse and keyboard. It feels a little bit easier to control for me. How satisfied are you with the controls when using a mouse and keyboard? How do I feel? I haven't actually thought about this. How do you guys feel about the controls with mouse and keyboard? I'm genuinely asking. I feel like I've not thought about this at all. It just is. I don't have any real issues. My only issue is that the tether is not its own button. I don't like that it's part of the little scroll wheel thingy. But in general, the controls I have no issues with, I feel. I can't think of any. I'm gonna put very satisfied. The only gripe for me is I want the tether on its own button. But other than that, I guess for me, I don't think about it at all. And so it's probably good. As of now, what do you find most enjoyable about the game? I like exploring the open world, solving puzzles, etc., challenging gameplay and combat, an interactive combat experience. I also really do like the elusive realm roguelike gameplay. Those are going to be my answers. How likely are you to continue playing the game? Very likely, in that I will be continuing to play the game. What is your motivation for continuing to play the game right now? Collecting echoes, saving up, open world combat, earning UN XP, exploring the open world, probably for me. Leveling as well. I think those are it. How satisfied are you with Taste It Fields? Somewhat dissatisfied. Tasted fields for me right now feel bad. Double XP event is appreciated, but it doesn't feel like quite enough materials even doubled. Tasted fields are too expensive for the benefit you receive, and it doesn't feel good to be forced to use so many of the limited wave plates for so little rewards, since there are very few other ways to get Echo EXP. Because for me, what it is that like you are absolutely forced to do tasted fields. Like you have to do them if you want to level up your echoes. And so the fact that you are forced to use 60 of your wave plates to get that Echo XP, there's no other way to really do it other than some of the endgame stuff. It feels really, really bad. If it was a cheaper cost and we got the same rewards, I might not have the same issue. But it's like, for you to level up a full Echo, you have to use like a full day's worth of wave plates. And it does not feel rewarding enough for the cost. The cost to benefit ratio is shit. How satisfied are you with material instances, forgery challenge, and simulation domain? How much are the forgery challenges? The forgery challenges are 440. I'm neutral on these. Because my thing is I think it'll feel better when our worlds are fully leveled up and it won't feel so unsatisfying. But the problem is that we are like so locked at this, like, maybe we're either at level 40 or we're at level 50. Nobody's getting to level 60 anytime soon unless they're spending a bunch of money. It feels really unsatisfying because it feels like we're just sort of stuck in this purgatory of not getting very many rewards for the amount of wave plates that we're using. And again, I think this is also a problem of just being in the new period of the game, the early release period of the game, but it doesn't feel very good right now. With the current achievable union level, yes, that's a good way of putting it. Are you satisfied with the Echo gameplay? I'm gonna say dissatisfied. And I'm going to give exactly one reason. Phantom Echo system sucks. Please make it better. The Phantoms are totally meaningless cosmetics. It makes it feel like a wasted gameplay mechanic. I hate them. Currently, the shiny Echoes are ass because if you guys don't know this, there are only 2 that you can currently get in open world. There are a couple more that you can get from some of the harder endgame modes in the shops, but there are 2 you can get in the open world, and they spawn in specific areas every day. All you have to do is check like 4 to 6 areas for each of the Echoes, and you will eventually get a shiny Echo. You are more or less guaranteed to eventually find those shinies, and then it's also a skin that you can just put on every Echo forever. It makes hunting Phantom Echoes a complete fucking waste because it provides almost no value. It's very easy to find them. You know exactly where they're gonna be. You know if they're there within like 30 seconds of teleporting there, and there's like no enjoyment of that. For me, I think it might be a little bit of like an ex-Pokemon player problem, because for me, the shiny system felt very worth it because they were kind of hard to find. They were random. You could increase your odds or change your odds with Scarlet and Violet, but they were still random. You could still wait a long time before finding them, where like I had both of the shiny Echoes within a week of the game, and now there's no reason to look for more shiny Echoes because there are no more of them, and I can put them on every single other Echo. Like, it's completely useless. It's completely meaningless. I wanted more of a Pokemon shiny experience, and this feels like a sort of slapdash for no reason last minute addition to the game, and I don't really like it. I hate the Phantom Echo system. The rest of the Echoes, it's fine, but the Phantom Echoes are stupid. How satisfied are you with your daily consumption of wave plates? I'm gonna say somewhat dissatisfied on this one as well. I think this is one of those, because we're not as progressed, I'm actually gonna go ahead and put very dissatisfied on that. To me, a lot of it is that like the actual progression for how many wave plates you spend feels very poor. And then because you can't condense, you can't overfill, there's no like way to save wave plates or anything like that. It feels like complete shit to have to log in and sort of piss out your wave plates daily for like the little meaningless ass progression that you get. Like, it doesn't feel very good. And again, I want to say that partially this is because we are in 1.0 and we're not supposed to be an endgame, and so I get that, but it just doesn't feel like it doesn't feel satisfying, and I want to be honest about how it feels. Do you have any other feedback or suggestions about the leveling experience? Leveling feels very, very fast in the first 30 levels, and then the game feels like you sprint into a brick wall where you are no longer allowed to progress. It feels unbalanced. It's very exciting until you hit that wall, but the wall feels very fast and soon when you start the game. In every gacha game, there comes this point where you get to the squeeze. They get you really excited. They give you a lot of dopamine where you're doing a lot of stuff, you're doing a lot of progressing, and then they sort of hit you with this okay, now you have to wait or you have to spend money. It happens in every gacha game. Every gacha game I've ever played always has this squeeze period. I think the problem for me, and this is personal, you can disagree, this is my personal opinion, the squeeze hits so fast in Wuthering Waves. If you're playing daily, even if you're not doing crazy gameplay, right? Even if you're playing relatively conservatively, that squeeze hits you in 2 weeks. And then the squeeze is so hard compared to how much progression and how much exciting shit was happening. It feels bad because you hit that squeeze too fast after having no squeeze. You start out with almost nothing barring your progression. It's very easy to get all of the things that you need especially because there's a bunch of shops. But then you hit this wait. You know, it's too early and it's too hard of a wall. It feels a little bit unbalanced and it feels it feels bad. And that beginner 30 levels feels fantastic. But then you get to level 35 and you're oh, Lord have mercy. It's something that we're gonna have to see how that develops over time. But it does need to be fixed if we want to get people into the game in the future, for sure. Which of the following events have you played? All of them. How satisfied are you with Overdash Club? I'm gonna say somewhat dissatisfied. What do you find unsatisfactory about Overdash Club? It's too easy and lacks a sense of achievement for sure. Gameplay is too far from the teleport point. I think that's fair. There isn't enough track variety. The time spent to rewards granted ratio felt fair. However, the event felt very lackluster, especially when there I can't type is a side mission that is essentially the same gameplay but way more interesting and fun. Alloy smelt was I'm neutral. It was fine. Descriptions of Sonosphere buffs were hard to understand. The gameplay is not entertaining enough. The Sonosphere buffs were not noticeable enough when triggered. I think that's true. Gameplay levels lack variety, and I think this is it. I think this was just boring. It didn't really add anything. It was just sort of it was a combat event. Yahoo, yippee, poggers. But that's kind of it. It was, it was just simply a gameplay event and kind of not anything else. You could get into what the Sonosphere buffs did, but it kind of didn't really matter if you were strong enough. And honestly, whatever the Sonosphere buffs did do, when I did pay attention to it, it really wasn't all that interesting. It didn't add anything to the gameplay that I really wanted. It was fine. We got rewards. We did some things, and it was fine. But it was really boring. How satisfied are you with the text quality of Wuthering Waves? Very dissatisfied. Very dissatisfied. There are some mistakes in it. Grabber or word choice. The text is overflowing. Does not conform to my language usage such reading habits. The text is too lengthy and difficult to follow. The translation is incomplete. I'm gonna put all of them. Basically, the localization of this game is abominable. Granted, localization from Chinese into English is obviously difficult, clearly. And at the same time, it's still ass, and I still didn't like it. And it's particularly bad. Every game that has translation from Chinese into other languages does struggle with the, translations. But this is particularly horrendous, and it did take away from the game for me for sure. I'm purposely being really, really hard on the game right now because this is the feedback we are giving to the corporation directly. It is more important to be highly critical to the company itself than in any other situation. So I'm actually being significantly harder than I often would be in a video for this, purely for the reason that I think that they need to hear the harshest version of criticism to understand that it is important to change things and make things better. I'm not gonna say it nicely or lightly to the corporation. The corporation needs to fix this shit so they don't get the nice version. Some of this shit sucks. Which part of the text do you find unsatisfactory in quality? Story-related text, geography-related text, systems-related text, culture-related text. All of the text is kind of shit. Especially some of the character descriptions. The weapon descriptions are ass. A lot of stuff is very unclear, 100%. Many descriptions are so unclear as to end up being inaccurate, especially with character and weapon skills. And I know that they're not necessarily going to read this, but I still want to put it in there, okay? They gave me the opportunity to yap, and I'll yap. That's my job. There's stuff that is so unclear as to what it means as to end up being inaccurate or to lead you to believe something that is not true, and that needs to be fixed, especially with characters and weapons. Let's see. What content are you looking forward to experiencing? New companion quests. I've loved the Jian and Yinlin companion quests so far. Really, really good. Tougher combat challenges, new characters, new bosses, more combat mechanics, new puzzles, new I'm just gonna say all of them. Can I just say I would like all of this to be in the game, and I'm looking forward to all of it possibly being in the game in the future? The answer is yes. Please give us skins. You need skins. Skins will improve the gameplay experience significantly. Please, 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 please. Bunny Rover skin, please submit. So yeah, those are a lot of my thoughts on the gameplay right now. I have a lot of things that I want for the game, but I think that it is important to be as directly critical of the game in these situations as possible. I tend to say things a little bit nicer, and I have a lot of hope for the game, so that's usually why I phrase things in a particular way on videos and on stream and stuff. But when you're actually talking to the corporation, they need to hear the harshest version because they need to change. They need to understand that it needs to be better. And so I'm not going to be nice about it. That is my thoughts about the questionnaire. Let me know what you thought. Did you disagree? Did you agree? Let me know. Come join us on Twitch if you ever have time. Twitch.tv/hex_juice. 10 a.m. Pacific Standard daily. And I will see you next time. Love yourself. Be safe. Drink water. Boo. Bye.